Hello, everybody, and welcome to Conservatish, episode 219. My name is Peter Edgar Feliciano. Wherever you're listening, make sure you subscribe, share, rate, review, blah, 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 blah. Find me on Instagram at Peter_Feliciano. You can find me on TikTok at Peter_Feliciano, and you can find me on Twitter at Rule62Peter. And you can support my podcast and my music at patreon.com/conservatish. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the wonderful Kristen Carney. Yay!
Hey, huge round of applause. My ears are getting blown out right now with the applause.
Yes, everybody on the, oh my God, she looks like it's laundry day right now. So first things first, where can people find you, my dear?
Well, besides drug cartels, you can find me generally on Instagram at Chris Carn or Twitter at Kristen Carney. You see, it's Chris Carn, short for Kristen Carney. Or my website, which is my business, called kristenandchill.com, where I teach guys how to banter with women so they can get dates. So if you're having a hard time chatting with women online and getting to the date, this gal's going to get you at least on the date. I can't promise anything for your wee-wee, but I can promise something at least for your wallet. You'll be spending money on a date.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining me. A couple, first things first, I wanted to have you on because you're funny and you're problematic and you're in this clique. But I just want to know first things first, what's Gino Bisconti like in real life? Like, is he that hairy really in real life?
I think you get distracted from the hair by the smell of booze. So It's like you can't really, the hair is an afterthought, because he's got so much going on that's so nothing.
It's like a whirly gig. Right.
Yeah. But he's one of my absolute favorite human beings on the planet.
Yeah.
And I know he likes me a lot, but I don't know if the feeling's as mutual. So I get overly excited when I see him. And
you're saying you like him. You're not sure if the feeling's mutual.
Well, no, I know he likes me, but I don't know if I'm one of his favorite people on the planet.
Okay.
And so whenever I see him, I light up because you're just going to have fun with him. Right. And he probably looks at me and he's like, I can have fun with her, but she's also going to talk about her emotions and she might cry. And, so yeah.
You're fun at like the laundromat, at maybe a European wax center, but not necessarily at like a bar or something like that.
Well, they get your emotions going. But I mean, I'm not a lush or anything, and I can keep my emotions in check. But yeah, no, I love Gino, and hopefully he loves me just as much. Except I hate this piece of hair.
So no, it looks good.
Move that.
All right. What? Okay. All right. Yeah, no. Okay. So there's a couple of different avenues we can go to start. Ideally, I hate the whole like comedian podcast thing. Like, what's your favorite joke? I'm like, but I would just like a teensy bit of cornball shit. Where did you grow up? Where are you from? When did you start comedy?
So I grew up in way upstate New York, and kind of in the middle of nowhere, in between Albany and Syracuse, which is smack dab in the middle of the state. Both sides of my parents come from dairy farming families. So I got the old country running through my blood, but I always wanted to be in the city. I always felt like I was a city girl. So I was always trying to, get there, which I did. I lived in Los Angeles for 10 years. I moved back a couple years ago, and but I'm an East Coast at heart. I started stand-up comedy when I was about 24 or 25, and I enjoyed the comedy part, hated the game of it all, and the people. It was like when I started doing stand-up, I realized it was like finding out as an adult version that Santa Claus isn't real. I thought comedians were going to be the coolest, realest, most authentic, and they are literally the polar opposite. I felt like I was back in high school, only with more jokes. At least they have some jokes, whereas in high school everyone just kind of sucks. But yeah, no, it was a fall from kind of the heavens. I was just like, no. And so then since then I've done a lot of podcasting and a lot of kind of, I still do stand up. I do comedy roasts for sports legends, basically. But I just don't hustle that much right now for stand up. And I'm trying to think about doing it again. Thus, my discussion about my Instagram page. So that's my story.
Right. Yeah. I've had a good friend of mine, Mark Hughes, who also Gino knows, a Canadian comic who escaped Canada hell to England, which apparently is actually better than Canada. Isn't that interesting?
It is.
For comedy? A little bit anyway, apparently so far. He talks about, like, especially in podcasts, can kind of illuminate that, that comedians are some of the least funny people in the world. Like, as far as like outside off of stage, sometimes they can be some of the most, especially Los Angeles. Los Angeles is hell.
Right.
Remember back in Tool, Learn to Swim. That's why, like, I get that so much more after visiting Los Angeles and knowing Los Angeles people.
Yeah. New York comics, I will say, like, I think New York comics in person aren't as bad
Right.
in terms of that stuff. And they can be funny in person, and they're generally, I find most of them a lot more ready to laugh and more ready to talk to someone that's a nobody. Like, for example, if I go to the Comedy Cellar, I'm not, a performer at the Comedy Cellar, but people will still talk to me there and they'll treat me like nicely. And I'm like, oh my God, wow. But then if you go to LA and you're hanging out at the Improv in Hollywood or something, everyone's looking just past you to see who's more important. And I'm sure they're doing it at the Cellar as well, just not as intensely. Yeah. Yeah. But in LA, it's almost like you need a crossed eye to have a conversation. You can have one on the person you're talking to that's unimportant, and then one on the crowd around you who's more important, where you can find, the agent that's hanging out or whatever bullshit. So
right. Yeah, I don't know. Especially, you know what? I was thinking about the phrasing of this conversation and what things I want to. But this is I have to be. So if you don't share it, you don't share it. Whatever. But I have to be fucking no eggshells for me. I like it that way better. Especially when somebody who's deep in the shit and has such a wealth of openness there. Let's get fucking open. So, here's the thing. When I You ever heard that joke? A New York no.
A New York
a New York no. A New York no. A New York no is no. A
Right.
Los Angeles no is yeah, sure, totally.
Yeah.
We should do that.
Yes.
And then I added a San Francisco no is I don't know, and then they won't email you back. That's what the
yeah.
And I have been getting more and more. So I moved to New York partially. Obviously, I'm a musician and a podcaster. Blah blah blah. I'm wanting to, there's nothing in San Francisco for this career entertainment. So I came here partially because of that. And then a small percentage was that New York comedy has been my lifeblood for a long time. I've been deep into Opie and Anthony and Patrice O'Neill and Colin Quinn and Jim Norton and all these motherfuckers, right? And I was delighted to find Gino and Aaron and all these people in this Anthony Cumia spinoff and all this shit, right? Chrissy Mayer. And at the same time, I got... And it wasn't just hearing the horror stories, because I can deal with that. I've been into comedy podcasts for a long time. I know the ups and downs of all that shit. But it was, I just gotta say it, Colin Quinn has been my favorite living comic. Patrice will always be, but Colin Quinn is my favorite living comic. I partially moved here, as corn fucking ball as it is. I moved here partially so I could try to fucking buddy up to these motherfuckers. So I could eventually sit, if I could sit at the Comedy Cellar and be fucking ragged on, that I could die goddamn happy.
I know the feeling. Believe me, I know the feeling. That's honestly, I have to be completely honest with you. I have a lot of like mental struggles in terms of depression and like suicide ideation and a lot of heavy shit.
Oh yeah.
If I'm at the Comedy Cellar around someone, like Colin Quinn or, not that Bill Burr hangs out there. He's more in LA, but Dave Attell, those guys, that is my actual heaven, and I get almost emotional thinking about it. Like, it's my kind of heaven on earth. So
Right.
I completely understand.
And I'll bring it a step further, though. What disappointed me wasn't it was, to tell you the truth, it was motherfuckers performing at places that required vaccines when they didn't need to, when they didn't fucking need to. It's one thing. It's one thing if you're an opening comic, if you're a middling comic, if you have to eat, you cannot eat unless you do stand up.
Right.
All right, fine, whatever.
Right.
If you are a Colin Quinn who has the clout, and I'm not in that motherfucker's accounts. Whatever, maybe he needed the cash, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you have the clout and career to handle performing in goddamn Jersey that doesn't require vaccines, and yet you record in New York, you're kind of a bitch to me, and I no longer put you on a pedestal. Now, maybe that's my fault. Yes, he did. He performed at a place that required vaccines. So now, here's the thing. If it was genuine, if he actually believed that it was important to do so, that's one thing, right? That's one thing.
Yeah.
But if you look at the other dates on the tour, all those other dates don't require vaccines.
Right.
So you're okay with segregation. Why then? Why is it? Now, is it maybe you're really petrified of the corona? I don't think you were. I don't think you were. Is it that you needed the cash? No, because you could literally go, hey, Netflix, I'm working on something. Hey, HBO. He did it during the fucking pandemic. He put on a great show for HBO Max. So the disconnect there is and I don't need my heroes to agree with me politically, but it's the seeing shit, calling it out, acknowledging it, and at least going. And Colin Quinn was really good at that, playing both sides, talking about how both sides, if there are sides, but him perform. I just had to go, ugh, I can't listen to him anymore right now. Anyway, I can't until I hear a justification.
Yeah. Well, you were like, is he afraid of, the virus? No, probably not. I still think a lot of the big guys, and I have no idea really for him, but I still think a lot of the big guys are afraid of the industry.
Right.
And I mean, you can be shoved out so easily, and of course Colin's already earned everything that he needs to earn and all the clout and everything. But I still feel, and I mean, maybe he truly thinks people should be vaccinated. Maybe that could be the entire thing. But to me, there is that fear of the big guys, the Hollywood people kicking you out. I think, like, personally, I haven't heard Bill Burr say shit on anything lately. And he is deep in Hollywood with producing TV shows, acting in TV shows. He's not gonna go there. And it's like our only hero, like the people who could say it, who could do it so well. It's almost like when you're watching a cheesy, scary movie and a cop finally shows up because this murder is on the loose, but then the cop turns into another bad guy or is the bad guy.
Right.
And you're like, no, you were our only saving grace.
Right.
Now, it's the same idea for me with the comics that are great, that could say something that it's like, turns out like, no, you're one of them too. Oh my God. And then it feels like you're, in this monster zombie land and you're the only normal one there and there's no one to save you. Even the strongest person that you thought was going to save you ain't going to save you. And that's how that feels to me.
Yeah, it feels betraying, partially because, I mean, across the board, like, obviously we've seen lots of those. Rage Against the Machine was a great example of that and whatever. And I rag on those motherfuckers even before they performed at places that require vaccines. But because it's the same song over and over. Let's be real. Thanks for your drop D, Tom Morello. Thanks. Can you fucking move on? One other emotion. There's 88 keys on a keyboard. All right. But it's, I don't even know how to accurately, I'm trying to put it into words, but or put it into ideas, because it's you have a lot of these guys have the clout and the career to handle a couple of angry days on Twitter, right? So it's not and they sometimes already face that. They already say big fuck you, boom, I'm going through it, right? And here's the other weird part of it, because you said part of it what could be is they really believe everybody should be vaccinated. I know a lot of white liberals I try to keep these motherfuckers in my life because I know and love a lot of them outside of the political sphere, and thank God off of social media I humanize them because of my life and they love me and blah blah blah, right? We sometimes can't follow each other on social media, but it is what it is, right?
Right.
But most of the pro-vaccine people I know are anti-mandate. Most of them.
Yeah.
So there's layers.
Which is amazing. Which surprises me.
Right.
It gives me a little bit of hope.
Right.
When I hear that. And I don't really believe it. Like I'm glad that's true, but I'm kind of like, no, everyone's a douchebag. I don't know if I believe that, but if it's the truth, that's great.
It's definitely the truth for me, and I think it's a truth across the board, mostly when I look at human experience. You know, who's a great example? I'm listening to Bob Odenkirk's autobiography. Love Bobby. You know, he created some amazing shit. And every once in a while he'll say like, yeah, you know, Donald Trump, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all right, yeah, get to the next part. Talk about Mr. Show somewhere.
Well, right.
And I don't mind him going off or expressing his political views if they, you know, go for it, Bob Odenkirk. But his view of the people who voted for the motherfucker, right, is wildly disconnected from reality.
Everyone's is. It's like they have a cartoonized version of what the Trump voter is, or what the conservative is, or the conservative-ish is. It's like someone painted or someone drew the cheesiest cartoon and they were like, oh yeah, that looks real. Yeah, we're going to buy that. You know, it's like they don't have any concept of nuance. None whatsoever. It's such a one-dimensional thinking of someone who wouldn't be liberal is. And it's like they have this shield up that they refuse to see anything otherwise. And like, there are so many times I want to share videos of like Megan McGlover, or someone that they would,
I've got her cell phone number. Boom.
I know, because I saw her on your show. That's how I found out about her.
Okay.
And I want to share her shit because I want to show all the people on my timeline, hey, look, it's someone you would never in a million years believe leans right. And I want to do that because all of a sudden it might open up their eyes. If there's one Megan McGlover, there might be two, and then there might be three, and then there might be 1,000, then there might be 10,000, and then all of a sudden it can start changing their view, but they won't even give it one glance. So it's, for me, like, I started trying to fight that, you know, when shit was really hitting the fan with all the riots going on and everything. I tried, and I got so much pushback and I got so much hate that my parents actually had to sit me down, and they were like, because I was so overly passionate about it, and they were just like, you're damaging yourself, your like emotional self, and things come in waves. This is, every generation goes through, you know, in the 60s, it was radicals and like there's always, you know, this happens. So they had to kind of calm me down because I was posting a lot on Facebook, and there was family stuff, like my aunts and cousins were getting like really mad at me. And these are people that have been close to me my whole life, and they were like getting in fights with them. That's unheard of. So so I just kind of went, is it worth my energy? Because if I could be like a white Megan McGlover and do that shit on Instagram and get in the car and just go on rants about everything, I would. But I'm like, I feel so weak mentally in so many other ways that I don't know if this is another burden I can carry. So I kind of dropped that boulder of weight and just went, I can't do anything right now. I don't have the mental capacity, as my mom passed away. In addition to that, well, first of all, when she did pass away, I pretty quickly lost interest in politics. I didn't look at I didn't give a fuck.
Mhm.
All I cared about was where my mom is, what happens to your spirit, what is God, where is God, why did he take my mom? The only thing I wanted to know was where do we go when we die? And some people are atheists and say nowhere. I absolutely don't believe that. But I just became obsessed with trying to figure out where did you take my mom? And so nothing felt significant on this planet. And I started to feel really disconnected from anything human because I was so focused on the other side. And so I started to see the insignificance of arguing about politics or caring about politics or even, things that I have always loved, movies, skiing, shit, like anything that is related to this earth and being held down by gravity onto this place, I did not care about. And just within the last couple of months, I started to be able to watch TV a little bit again. I just started to be able to, um, ski again or whatever the stuff that I enjoyed as a human being.
Right.
Because it's really interesting once you emotionally exit this physical body that we are crammed into and stuck into, you start to get this higher perspective. But now I'm floating. So the balloon that took me up, the big sack of balloons that took me up and disconnected me from the earth has been popped and I'm falling back down to earth. And now I'm getting really pissed about politics again. I'm getting really passionate about the little things like, oh, this guy took up 2 parking spaces.
But what if it wasn't binary? What if there was a way? Because I know exactly what you're saying, especially the riots. So a few days ago, when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock because he fucking didn't. But whatever.
Do you think it was staged?
Staged as fuck. Chris
I
Rock
don't think
is
it was
not that good an
staged.
actor. He's not that good an actor.
Chris Rock, I don't think it was staged. Chris Rock is way too good of an actor.
Chris Rock is? Will Smith
no,
is?
it would have to be way too good of an actor for his reaction. If it was staged, I feel like it was staged behind Chris Rock's back because he reacted so authentically. He was truly shooken up. To me, it looked like.
That's possible.
I think Will Smith and this narcissistic group of celebrities is that insane that they would do something like that. And I think maybe the Academy was like, fuck yeah, thanks for doing that. Like, we didn't plan that shit, but that was great. But I'm open to the idea that it could have been planned. I just, from my initial reaction seeing it, Chris Rock he would have had a line ready, like real lines ready to go or something to really come back at him. He didn't. He was like, okay, man. And like, he seemed actually tongue-tied for a second and was just, all right, I guess I got to keep going. And so I don't think it was, but I'm again open to hearing.
Well, yeah, and I didn't necessarily want to jump into that, but I will say what I saw over and over was it could very possible that Chris Rock wasn't in on it, but the wide camera angle in this huge, extremely expensive, meticulously planned.
How did they know it was coming?
Wide camera angle only? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, there's a 2-minute motherfucking delay at least at the Oscars.
Right.
Oh, gee golly, something happened that no.
Right, and we
capitalize on all that.
Yeah,
shit.
right.
No one has given a sweet hot fuck about the Oscars in goddamn years, partially because of the schlocky shit they make, the cornball didactic. Look, someone black is having a hard time somewhere. It's white people's fault. They've been shoving that down. And because of the posturing, Epstein, all that stuff. So, you know what? Rather than make us the good guys, because we can't do that because the public has shut their eyes.
Right.
You know what? Let's just turn into MTV. Look, everybody, let's turn into reality TV.
Right.
It's magical. It's as a friend sent me a message. It's Andy Kaufman and Jerry Lawler. That's what
I saw that. I saw that someone posted like Andy Kaufman already did this, something like that. And those are great points. Those are totally great points. I mean, I know their ratings are shit. it just, to me, looked so authentic in the moment. But again, we're dealing with Hollywood. They're actors. They can make, pull off that shit. I mean, Will Smith, I would trust to be able to pull off that level of acting. Chris Rock, not so much. And that's what kind of makes me doubtful, but I never thought about the camera angles or anything like that.
And
And the
also
2-minute delay.
right. And
They could have
also,
gotten that.
oh, and also Will Smith is, even if he's an amazing actor, the option here is not binary. He could have also used that as a catharsis for a bunch of people talking mad shit over the last year about him and his wife.
Right.
He could be acting and also angry and taking it. You know what? This would be a great way for me to earn points in the sphere for Chris Rock to get, and then Oscars to get. This is a magical mix, right?
Yeah. Well,
and also for him to, take out his anger.
That's the one thing when you're like awake, you realize we're living in the theater. Nothing's real, basically. So, I'm not opposed to that idea. One thing that I want to say about, I know you didn't want to get into this really quick.
No, it's okay.
But you said how they have the 2-minute delay, but they just happen to not be able to cut off that 2 minutes. If it was real and authentic, the producers in the back could have gone, wait, let it run. If it was real.
Sure. That's possible too.
And they could have been like, you know what? This will be good for ratings. Just let it happen.
Yeah, that's possible.
So that's just a thought that just quickly popped into my head. But I mean, you don't put anything past Hollywood. So I'm not. Yeah.
You've been there. You know how these people operate. It has nothing to do and that's why, I mean, I tweeted a couple months ago, but it's easy to know why everyone in Los Angeles is leftist. If people were willingly able to suck off Harvey Weinstein in order to get fame, then of course they would go, here's my opinion. Yeah. Climate change. Of course they would.
Of course.
Yeah.
The Harvey Weinstein thing is, when you're a woman, you're expected to have it's so interesting because, it's like women are supposed to be empowered. And the minute you disagree with the mainstream view of what a woman is supposed to be thinking at the moment, you're a bad guy. And so it's like, no, if you're a real feminist and you really believe in that shit, you'll let me have the opinion that women are also responsible for the actions that they take. Harvey Weinstein, you participated with. I don't know every instance if he just straight up
there was definitely some rape. Absolutely.
Raped, and so in that case, it's like, well, yeah, obviously he's a monster. But the people that were doing anything to get close to him and then got into the situation and then went along with it, I'm all about self-responsibility. I'm all about self-ownership and self-responsibility. And so that's why I can't really be on the left, because on the left, it seems like there's no self-ownership or self-responsibility whatsoever. And that it's ironic because I say that. I'm like, I'm all about self-responsibility, and not that it's the same as self-discipline, but like I sleep until 1:30. I mean, I'm like,
well, okay,
but it's my fault. But I take responsibility that it's my fault that my life isn't where I want it to be, and I don't sleep until that late every day. I just recently had a date that I thought went really, really, really well. And there was like a good smooch at the end, told me I was beautiful. And I have barely heard anything from him since. And so I go into like a deep, like crashing depression. So anyway, today I actually slept really late because I just, was really bummed. I'm really bummed about that. And so I'll get over it in like 2 weeks and I'll move on. But anyway, so that's why I slept late today. I mean, I'll find an excuse to sleep late tomorrow.
Exactly. But okay, anyway. Well, that ties back into the point I was making about before the Chris Rock thing. When I've noticed, and I think this is applicable, I think this is true, that when I saw that on Twitter and I got that feeling in my belly I got that not, right? Oh, yeah. And I saw stupid fucking Amy Schumer going, duh, duh, look, I'm really roasting Florida by saying gay. The goddamn bill doesn't say that, you stupid ass.
Anyway. Every time I hear that, all I want to scream is, read the fucking bill. Read the goddamn bill. And they think they're so clever with their sayings. They think they're so clever. Don't gay, 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 gay. Well, that's hilarious because it has nothing in there that says don't say it. So it's almost like saying someone's like, someone's like, say, I don't know. I'm not gonna have the right analogy, but I don't know. No analogy is coming to me right now.
Yeah, and again, it falls in. It's totally on brand because they're cornball fucks. They think roasted, drop mic.
We got them.
Yeah, the only people that again they're performing for are the stupid fucking white liberals who already goddamn agree with them, and most of them are in that fucking room. So when I got that feeling in my belly, it was very similar. Oh, you froze a little bit. Where are you at?
Is it doing?
There she is. There she is. Okay. All right, you're back. You're back. So that feeling in my stomach is the same feeling I got when George Floyd died. It's the same feeling I got when the riot started. Same feeling I got during January 6th. Same feeling I got. What if that feeling? What if that feeling is false flag shit? Yeah. What if that feeling is? Oh, wait a second. So remember when I said maybe it's not.
Same with January 6th.
Right.
Same feeling.
It's maybe it's not binary. What I meant by that was, okay, I'm up here with the floating with the whatever, and now I'm popping down and I'm getting angry. What if I could bring the great, wonderful aspects of my exploration internally and externally at my groundedness and bring that to my politics? And that's the shit that I feel a lot of motherfuckers on my side don't do well. But we're getting better, especially when they enacted the vaccine mandates. That made a lot of spiritual people go, bitch, what?
Right.
You're gonna force it. I may have voted for Biden, but I got chickens and I have rose quartz and I got a bunch of Agrippa sage, and you're not telling me what to put in my body. Right. So one of the main things I talk about on the show is self-care. It's cornball as you want. I know I was anti-hippie for a long time. I get it. I grew up in the goddamn Bay Area. I know. But what I'm saying is there's a way to incorporate the self-care, the spirit, the exploration, the whatever. And, I mean, as an example, on the micro, sometimes I take like, I realized yesterday, I was like, okay, I'm getting a little too into social media. I'm going to give it 2 hours. And I took 2 hours off. Because that's the micro. Did I meditate today? Am I cleaning my apartment? Am I this, whatever? So there's a way to slowly work on bringing this is not important to that. And also, it's self-important, but save fucking souls.
Yeah.
Call out lizard shit,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I definitely feel like that merging is happening a little bit, but it does take effort and it takes some self-discipline because you want to just revert to your knee-jerk reaction, which is just like get pissed and not have any enlightenment in the experience of like arguing on Twitter. But because I feel like I'm not like enlightened, but I'm more that now that it's easier for me to see the big picture and to step away or to see someone as a human being rather than their political party. Right. Because for a long time, I actually, the last words my mom ever said to me was I was watching a movie and I had to walk away because someone was in it that annoys me from Hollywood. And I said, I can't even enjoy movies anymore. I can't even enjoy movies anymore because everyone in it just like, I see their fakeness and they bother me. And I walked away. And my mom said, you're just going to have to learn how to separate the two, like your passion for your beliefs and and movies and entertainment. Because I've always loved, and that's the hard part as well. And I think maybe some people that lean right, because I used to when I lived in LA, I voted Democrat. I was on the left, but it was all just because I was numb to anything and I didn't pay attention. And it was like, okay, I guess this is the right thing to do. There was nothing pushing me to actually have an opinion. But ever since I was younger, I did lean right. But then when I got to LA, it was like not hip or something.
Right.
And I didn't care enough that I was just like, oh, okay. And I was around enough people where it was like, oh yeah, of course the right they care more about people. Like I just kind of was like brainwashed for a little bit.
Right.
And when I first got out there, my boyfriend at the time made fun of me because I watched Fox News and I didn't know that. Like I was so clueless. Like I didn't know watching Fox News was like a thing. And this was like 2009 or something like that. So it didn't seem as polarized. I mean, I knew obviously Fox was a little bit different, but I didn't know it meant so much. Like if you watched it. So once the canceling started happening about, I think 6 years ago, little micro cancelings of like, I can't even remember stupid little things, but these micro cancelings and the gang up that would happen on Twitter. And I started going like, this shit isn't cool. This shit isn't cool. The person didn't even do anything wrong.
Right.
And you're ruining their life. And then I started noticing, obviously very quickly, it was all the left people doing that. And I immediately was like, fuck these fuckers. And so then I was, no longer part of it, but I changed my voting, I changed my status to independent. I was like, I'm not going to be part of this. I've always hated bullying. I've always gotten that feeling. Like you said, you get that feeling. There's that feeling and it feels so wrong or so off or so
powerless.
So, like what it's felt the tribalness. I've never been tribal. In nature. I've never had groups of friends, maybe just because I'm not likable, but I've never had groups of friends. I've never belonged to cliques. I've never been able to kiss ass. I've never been able to follow the trends that people are following because a cool online, magazine told you that this is how to think. I've never been able, I will go opposite. I think I'm naturally contrarian.
Correct.
So I sometimes wonder if because I'm so contrarian that if, Slate or something told me that Donald Trump was awesome, I would go, fuck you. No, he's not, just to be contrarian. I mean, I don't know, but I've always had this aversion to following groups and following cliques. And right now, this group think machine that is so far gone, they've lost their fucking minds. They're a cult, whether they want to believe it or not, they're a cult. And I will have zero part in it. But I'll just be a little bit of a coward and just be quiet about it at the moment. But I don't know why I started ranting about that, but I just anything clicky just rubs me the wrong way, like in my soul and in my every fiber of my being. I'm like, no, if a group is doing it, there's something fucked up going on.
Yeah, anything where the majority all agrees with this. What's bothersome to me, and that's why I hate the sentence I'm about to say right now, but I think I'm writing an article about that because it needs to. I'm essentially writing an open letter to formerly rebellious sketch comics. Some of my favorite shit in the world, Monty Python, Mr. Show, all these motherfuckers, Kids in the Hall.
I loved Kids in the Hall. God.
Kids in the Hall. By the way, just as a side note, have you seen Scott Thompson recently?
No.
Fucking killer. He's kept his soul. God bless Scott Thompson. God bless that motherfucker. He's one of my dream goddamn guests. I love that mother. He's an artistic North Star. Okay, for me.
Wow.
So God bless. Look at Scott Thompson on Your Mom's House podcast.
Okay.
With Tom Segura and Christina Pazitsky. It was from 2 years ago, but it's extremely. He rants about white liberals. It's beautiful, beautiful.
I love it.
And that ties into the thing I was saying. So does Tom Segura and Christina Pazitsky. And then they vote Biden. This is the goddamn disconnect. This is
Yeah,
what
I
I'm
don't.
fucking saying. Oh, but political correctness. Anyway, here's a bunch of power and money. You stupid fucks.
Right.
Wake up.
Right. Well, that's what blows my mind is that like last or 2 nights ago or whatever with the Chris Rock thing, all these comedians were coming out and being reasonable and being like, you can't punch a comic in the face, and they were all like acting somewhat normal. Like Kathy Griffin was just like, that's not cool. But it's like, Kathy, you're voting and your fucking shit got us here.
Ta-da.
And then now they're all like, but you can't do that. It's like, well, then stop voting for the party that condones that shit. What the fuck is wrong with you? And it's like, I think there's like, I don't know, there's like a lack of self-awareness or something where it's almost like a mental illness. Like,
Yeah.
they're not Asperger's, but
No.
like there's got to be another term, like not Asperger's, but it's like Hollywood Asperger's.
Here's what it is. It's white guilt. That's really what it is. It's
But
one of the most powerful. Here's I'll extrapolate. As much as they want to go, I mean, and obviously vaccine mandates, that's one thing. Because as much as they go like, I stand up for black people, bitch, literally only 40.5 as far as a few weeks ago. And it's obviously not ticking up. No one's getting vaccinated anymore. But 40.5 of black Americans are fully vaccinated.
40.
And you're 40.5.
Right.
Black Americans.
Right. Oh, don't even get me started with then the voter ID is racist.
Right. But again, it goes back to the point I was making earlier. The caricature that they have of us, we need to be careful of the caricature that we have of them. We need to be careful within our circle because it's too early, too easy to go, they hate America. No, they think they're well-intentioned. They think they're standing up. That's why, and people like you, yes, and also Gino and all these, whatever, but also brown motherfuckers like me need to be continued. If I need to use my half Puerto Ricanness to keep my fucking foot in the door, then I'll goddamn do it. I will use identity politics to kill identity politics, and I don't give a fuck. About
fight
it,
fire with fire.
Fight fire with fire. If someone comes in swinging on my shit, if they come in nice and they're like, actually, I disagree with you, let's have a combo. If they come in, you're a racist, I'm like, well. Or no, usually they come in other, you lick boots. I'm like, well, you're white and I'm Puerto Rican, so I win. End of conversation.
So you're so lucky. You really have no idea. Like I
do have an idea. I have an idea.
I'm completely white. I'm not gay. I'm not overweight.
Not even tried it. You never. No, I'm just kidding.
No, but I'm like, if I got fat and turned into a lesbian, do you know how much shit I'd be able to say? But I think vagina is that disgusting that it's not worth it.
Oh, well, I understand.
Not that mine is. Mine is very beautiful.
Beautiful flower. I wrote a monologue about it.
It really is.
Now, because that's all right. Yes, you could, but Patrice talked about that. The part of your hair is fine, Mama. You could just.
I know. I can't stop. It's hate. That's why I hate doing this shit on the internet, because then you can stare at yourself, and I hate myself, and so I'm like, if we were in person, I wouldn't think about it. But anyway, keep going.
So, all right. So the disconnect for them, I believe, is white guilt. Here's what I mean. Especially in Los Angeles, anybody cool who goes to Los Angeles eventually sells their soul, eventually. And it's subconscious, I believe, for the most part. And it's insidious, and it's just a part of the culture. Everybody cool, except Tim Dillon.
Fucking love Tim Dillon.
And Bill Maher,
a
couple of people.
And the thing that's so annoying is that they pick on Bill Maher. It's like no one wants to have sense talked. And so I remember like, I don't know, right before the election or whatever, this girl, I forget her name, she played the little girl in Mrs. Doubtfire. Her name starts with like an M, but she's really big on Twitter.
Maria okay, anyway, continue.
She said something about Bill Maher being a classical liberal, and like everyone in her comments was like ripping on him for being a classical liberal. And I'm like, if being a classical liberal is bad, then I don't even want to know what they think of what I would be. You're picking on a classical liberal. You guys, it's like they drank the Kool-Aid and they've gone way overboard to like there's something about them that feels very much like if it's reasonable, I'm going to be angry at it just like a 14-year-old would be if their parents said, you have to be home by midnight.
Right.
That's very reasonable and very lenient.
Right.
A 14-year-old home by midnight. And they're like, fuck you. No, that's not late enough.
Right.
And they have to keep pushing it and pushing it. But it's like, but that's a reasonable time. You're 14 years old. You don't know what's going on after midnight. You should probably be in the house. And they just want to keep pushing and pushing and pushing until progress becomes regress. It's
Right.
like progression eventually becomes regression. It's a circle, and we are in the regression phase of progression. And so someone like Bill Maher understands progress and the limit to progress.
Well,
Whereas these young millennial fuckers, or even people who aren't millennials or Gen Z and that are the older ones that are ripping on Bill Maher, they just feel like irrational teenagers that are emo against their parents, and they are ungrateful for their Christmas presents they got, and they just need to keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And I have zero respect.
Right.
But again, then I'm kind of going to that me cartoonizing them.
Sure.
But in that scenario, these people who like are liberal, who are, I guess you would say progressive or the left, which is different than classically liberal, right?
Right.
They have cartoonized themselves, where I'm not.
Oh, you froze a second. There she is.
I'm back. Ding. They're like the democratic socialist extremists, whatever. So when you go that extreme, you will be cartoonized. I, however, am not this extreme lunatic,
Right.
righty where I'm like, God will kill you if you, sleep, touch another man's wiener and whatever shit. Like, that's but they're putting every single person who leans right into the alt-right, into the QAnon, into the podunk, gun shooting, racist, N-word slinging, and it's but we didn't do that to ours. I didn't do that to myself. I don't. People who are like me don't do that.
Well, here's the thing. There's nothing built in current day conservatism which makes the people who are more moderate have to bend the knee. There is on the left, because again, on the left, on current day leftism, it's all built on feelings, right? It's all built on victimhood, Marxism. Hello. It's all built on that. So of course, anybody in the moderate is eventually going, you have to, that's what I said. That's why I said it's white guilt. White guilt is that's the gateway drug. And once they got hooked on that shit, there's anything is possible. Anything is possible because you as a person are an oppressor. You as a person are blind to the truth. You as a person, blah, blah, blah. Never motherfucking mind that all these white liberals spend at least okay. I've said this before and I'll goddamn say it again. I know more fucking black people than you, white liberals. I know more goddamn black people than you. And almost all of them are fucking unvaccinated. Almost goddamn all of them. And as much as they were fucking offended by Joe Rogan, sometimes they were offended by Joe Rogan. They were not the one calling for censorship. You white cocksuckers were under the flag of I'm a hero. Bitch, you're not a fucking hero. Step down.
The white savior bullshit.
Ugh.
I like, it's funny because I'm obviously full white, but I don't have any white. I mean, I understand, I get the idea of, having, the, the leg up, I would say, or whatever, in certain just me walking into a store and like not being followed around shit. Like I get that kind of shit, but I don't feel guilty about it because my parents, both sides of my family, we're fucking broke. We have no money. I don't come from anything. I have to struggle and work and struggle. I'll just say that twice because I have to struggle a lot.
Right.
I have to do that shit. I have to shop at the cheap stores. My grandparents came over broke as fuck. They, started farms, so I don't really feel like I've got this white guilt because I think my life hasn't been easy. Obviously, maybe it's not as hard as someone trying to get out of the ghetto. But everyone's got their own problems, and I mean, I don't really know how to phrase that. I'm too self-editing myself because I'm like,
exactly. And when has that ever been helpful to us? That's that white guilt shit. Even among conservatives, Mark Hughes always talks about it. He's like, the conservatives have a problem because the more vocal ones are still scared of being called racist.
Right. And that's the weapon. It's like anything you do, you're called racist. In my podcast, so I was doing a podcast for a long time, called Kristen Chill. And basically, it originally started out as mental health and depression. And then my co-host committed suicide. But she was pretty popular in like she was one of the first YouTube stars, and she had her own TV show. And so a lot of her followers kind of came over to me, and she would play this like chola on her YouTube channel. So she just naturally kind of had a lot of these really like kind of I don't know, young, cool girls. I don't even know how to describe it, but basically like a very liberal crowd came over. Once she took her life, I got flooded with messages from her fans, and I became like someone that they were talking to, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. And then Black Lives Matter rolls around and the whole like political stuff rolls around. And I tweet, I don't think rioting is really gonna get you where you want to go. Like, it's like you want to go left, but you're going right to go left. Like, it just, you're undoing a lot of progress by doing these riots or whatever. And so many people who listen to my podcast were sending me messages saying like, fuck you, racist. You're white supremacist, you're racist, you're awful, all this stuff. And so I kind of out of fear have not restarted my podcast because I know my base was generally that type of, so because it was about mental health, people put us into the bucket of like we were trying to normalize mental health or normalize depression. We weren't. We were two chicks who were in Hollywood who had nothing else to do, who wanted something to post on Instagram and like to talk shit about our depression. We didn't have any intention of being activists. So I kind of got thrown into this activist category when I'm like, in there, people be like, you're doing so much for mental health and the normalization. And like, that's not my style. I'm glad. I hope it gets normalized or whatever. I just like having funny conversations about shit that sucks. So, but now I'm an activist. And once something activisty happened, Black Lives Matter, which obviously was so conveniently timed for the Democratic Party to take all of their money and, all that stuff. And I knew the truth of that. They weren't prepared for that. And they attacked me, and my Patreon, dropped. I mean, I never had like a gajillion people on my Patreon, but I mean, I lost like immediately like 100 Patreon subscribers and all that. So I haven't restarted the podcast because I'm like, I know the audience. If I start talking about stuff that I feel passionate about, which is more stuff like this, I'm going to really lose everybody and I have to restart from scratch. But I also am not that passionate in that sense of like, I don't know all the facts. I don't have all the numbers. Like Tim Dillon, when he does his podcast, he's got a team around him, but he like really knows the shit that's going on. And I try to stay up to date, but I don't stay as up to date. So I don't even think I could speak as educatedly as I'd like to on this shit. So I've kind of just stopped and my podcast is frozen in midair. Like it's just because I'm like, I don't know. Do I talk about depression again? I don't really want to talk about depression again. But I also kind of, don't really want to talk about the politics stuff because I don't feel like getting daggers shoved up my asshole every week when I put out an episode of people being angry at something I said. So,
Well, okay. So let me talk about my approach. And I have a very different, obviously, show. But like when I was starting it, I called up a friend because, I would say nigger every once in a while, but not like, shitty or whatever. But
like sup N-word kind of thing, like sup N-word.
No, usually, honestly, on this show, most of the time I say it when I'm angry about white liberals. I'm like, nigga. Right.
Oh, okay.
Because it's a powerful word and I like to use it wherever the fuck
Right.
I want. But I knew before I went into this, I was like, I need to be like free. Like free.
Right.
Because eventually, as Patrice used to say, the reason why everyone got mad at Pee Wee Herman and Michael Richards was not for what they did, but because they represented themselves as something else and then got caught being something else.
Yes.
So he's so I'm not going to take a job at Disney because they know me and my girl are going to get caught fucking in a theater or something. So I'm like, okay, I need to be not guns blazing, whatever, but okay, here's me all the way. Sometimes on my show, I talk about politics. Sometimes I talk about sex. Sometimes, as I say, this is the only show you could talk about Trump and eating ass in the same episode. But like, and then also I had one.
The libs would disagree.
What?
I think the libs would disagree. They'd say that's every episode of something about Trump.
Right. But then I had a few weeks ago, I had an episode completely devoid of politics, and it was natural and it was organic and it was mostly about self-care and spirit. And so it's like, okay, this is this package. You can take it, you can leave it. I don't care, but I'm gonna be motherfucking me. Yeah. And I set that up from the jump.
You're free. I knew. You're free. See, I'm not free. And it sucks to live under the chains of not being free and hiding who you are. And, like it's being in the closet essentially in that, political way. And it's really like torturous. So I can imagine being a gay person and not being able to be your real self and staying inside the closet. That's got to be torturous because it's torturous to kind of just like be like, I want to share this meme and I can't. So if that's hard, I can't imagine like the gay closet. But you're free and I'm very envious of you.
Right. But this is let me add some hope to this. When the Black Lives Matter stuff was going on and I realized all that shit was going, and I had already been, doing my filthy fucked up show for a year and a half, almost 2 years at that point. I just grabbed up all kinds of black conservatives and because I saw white, well-meaning, smart white liberals just listen to black people. And I grabbed, okay, what about this one? What about this one? What about this one? What about this one? And because of I had a fucking Salvadorian friend reach out to me from the Bay Area. He's like, hey, I'm actually going to vote for Trump. And I was like, oh, interesting. He's like, part of the reason why is because you had all those black people on.
Yeah.
So the hope I'll throw in there is number one, the lizards, the douchebag Los Angelites, the white liberals, and a couple of, foul ass, loud, like there's like 5 black broads on Twitter. Yeah. I have a FUPA, so that means you have to listen to me.
Right.
A couple of those broads, but they're not only are they dwindling in numbers, they're already fucking small, okay? And the group, the community, the followers, the fans, whatever the hell, is not only grown from me being 100% myself, it's also been more motherfucking loyal because of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I posted something, what did I post? I was talking shit about God damn it, what happened recently? Dave Rubin and his husband adopted a kid.
Yeah.
And a couple of the conservatives, which is very rare because I know a shit ton of conservatives. Nobody hates gay people, you stupid ass. But a couple of them were like, we're not supposed to adopt because, and I was like, okay, I'll rail against them. And I got one message and maybe 2 comments that were angry. Everybody else was like, yep. Because, and even the people who were angry, they didn't unfollow me. They didn't call for my fucking canceling because they know I don't give a fuck. They also know that I'm coming from a good place and that shit's nuanced and complicated.
Right. It's the not giving a fuck is the real answer to the question of life, really, because then you fully are yourself. And when you fully are yourself, you then go to the heights that you're supposed to go to. And so I do have this thing in the back of my head, like divinely, I feel like divinely I'm holding myself back from my divine truth. Because I limit my myself in this arena. And so I've had these back and forth in my head of like, just free yourself, just go with it. And I wrote like a little thing on my Patreon explaining how when you're not like a tribalist in nature, you could either sink or you could either fucking fly and fly huge. And so it's like I feel like I have the ability to just be me and to spread my wings because I don't follow the 10 commandments of the left or whatever, but I just can't. It's almost like I'm a little birdie on a branch and it's like, fly birdie. And I'm like, but look at all those scary alligators. What if I fall? They're going to eat me alive.
And what if their fucking teeth was foam? This is what I'm saying.
Exactly.
There's only 2 of them and their teeth is foam.
Right. Because I do ask, I ask God to whatever is divinely my purpose, please let it find me. Because I'm having a hard time finding it myself. But I think I really kind of know what it is. I just won't really let myself be what it is. And it's really difficult because I want to get back into doing stand-up. But if you're heavy on the politics on right-leaning, you're only allowed at certain shows. Like Gino doesn't get up at the shows where all different types of comedians are there. He's basically ousted. He goes up at clubs that are for that night specifically for people who will be into someone like Gino. And when I do comedy, my comedy isn't political. I don't write political jokes. I mean, I do a little bit now on Twitter, but I never ever did anything political. My whole life was I was obsessed as a kid with Jerry Seinfeld. He was my hero. Everything was observational. And so if I put out there to the world this kind of political thing.
Froze a second.
Then when I go on stage and do jokes that are just observational and have no.
Hang on, you froze a little bit. So you said when I do this political thing.
So if I do this political thing on social media, it won't align with my jokes on stage. It won't align with my stand-up because my stand-up's about, I don't know, like making fun of community college or people who like cyclists, like I had posted something recently, or girls who get pregnant when they're 16 and, like none of that is political. So it's like, it would be this not aligned thing. So I'm like, maybe just my thing is just to keep being a comedian and talking about the minutia that I originally was so enamored with as a kid, the Jerry Seinfeld stuff, like the,
But what if? But okay, yeah, that's and there's validity to all of that. And listen, I mean, like I said, the music I write, I don't write any political music really. I mean, I have one coming up soon, which is just a little short little ditty. But in general, I like telling other stories, and I don't. But okay, the artists who I'm sold on, like I said earlier, I don't need to agree with them politically, and I get sold on them as a package. Whatever Trent Reznor fucking puts out, I'll probably listen to it because I'm sold on him. Sometimes it's not going to speak to me. Sometimes I'm going to fucking hate it. And sometimes I'm going to, but because of what he gave to me in the 90s and honestly, even a couple of the more recent ones, I'm like, I'm sold on that piece of shit. Like I'm down. Right. So I can entrust my audience to be smart enough to get context, to get nuance, to get storytelling, to get comedy, to get whatever, and say, fuck it. You're either sold on me or you're goddamn not. And same thing, John Cleese, one of my favorite, hilarious, groundbreaking, blah, blah, blah. I can't follow that piece of shit on Twitter. He's dumb as shit when it comes to politics, right? So I had to kind of pull out, right? But I'm still sold on him. Whatever he does, I'm gonna buy his next book.
But you're also a reasonable person, and I don't trust that people are reasonable people, you know.
Well, then that goes down to the definition, and maybe we'll wrap up. But then that goes down to the definition. I don't want shallow fans. I don't want shallow people like Kids in the Hall, right? You said you loved them. Kids in the Hall didn't stop and wait and go, you know what? Will they get this? Even in John Cleese's book, he says that he was writing for an earlier show. He and Graham Chapman would write this zany ass fucking sketch. They'd present it to the show, and the guys would say, very funny, but they're not going to get it in Bradford, UK. They're not going to get it in the... And so okay, well, guess what? When they came out with their show, it was sticky at first. People would say like, interesting show you got there. And then the next week, was interesting. And the third week, I like that interesting show you got. You know, I like that zany. This is a great show. So you will find your people. The people will find you, and they will be smart. And either you get it or you don't. But they didn't stop to go like, oh, gee golly, I hope people get it. They said, fuck it. And they didn't have to be boutique. They could be, you know, Kids in the Hall is pretty well known. I mean, yes, it's more boutique than, you know, SNL, but no one's invested in SNL emotionally. No one. Haven't been for 20 years. Right. Because they know what they get. They know it's McDonald's comedy. Right. They know it's McDonald's thought, McDonald's political ideology.
Which, by the way, I feel like is an insult to McDonald's because McDonald's is fucking delicious. But I get the analogy. But you're right. It is the McDonald's of comedy. I would liken it more to the Burger King of comedy, just because Burger King fucking sucks. But yes, I totally get what you're saying.
Right. And that analogy, by the way, comes from Nico, a former guest, not Nico House. I had him on last week. Nico, a former guest who's a black Japanese or black Filipino mix. So if you don't like that joke or that analogy, you're a piece of shit racist.
So I am. Well, I just want to say real quick, you had mentioned, you know, bringing on your black friends and like the black conservatives or people with a different perspective as a black person. And I had this super liberal left. I mean, she is so obnoxious. She's one of the worst people I've ever met in real life.
Do you want to put her name out there?
Oh God, I would love to. It's my dream. It's my dream. If I became successful, I would have like a battle going with her so badly. But she's way more successful than I am because she's a fake and a phony. Right. But she wrote to me during Black Lives Matter and was just like, because I had posted, the money doesn't go. What are you guys doing? Like, don't donate to Black Lives Matter. The money does not go to the black communities. There's no receipts. There's no proof. There's no nothing that any of the money is going to the communities. It's going, look at, and then, you know, I've had the paperwork on the board of directors and how much money they make, the employees, how much money they make, where all that money's going, and all the extras like tour buses and all this bullshit. None of it's going to the black community. And then several months later, it comes out that the local black chapters go to the head BLM chapter or whatever. And they're like, where the fuck's our money? But this girl who parades herself on Twitter and online as this holier than thou, white guilt to the highest extreme person who's fighting for trans rights, women, not even women's rights anymore. It's like, that's not, because if you're fighting for trans rights, you're not really fighting for the women's rights, but all that shit. And she, again, is one of the worst people I've ever met in my entire life. she wrote to me and she was like, you need to stop posting what you're posting on Twitter about Black Lives Matter, like demanding that I can't have my own opinion. And she's like, do you even know any Black people? And I just was like, you are so in a fucking bubble. And this bubble is not made out of soap. It's made out of like steel. It's like a steel bubble that you can't break through. You are so in a bubble. And I wanted to send her person after, like, all these Black people, all these Black conservatives or Black people that leaned right or saw all the bullshit, saw that they were being used. And she was like, you don't know any Black people. This is the way Black people think. And I wasn't saying, no, this is how Black people think. I was saying there's a massive group of people that you are unwilling to look at that are Black because they disagree with you, which is fucking racist.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and then she unfollowed me on Twitter and like we haven't really spoken since. But anyway, that cartoonized version of the white liberal thinking that every single Black person thinks exactly the same is the definition of irony of that's the ultimate racist thing that you could think. They're all the same. And so anyway, yeah, I get really passionate about it. Luckily, I didn't have any coffee. Otherwise, if you think I'm like a little uncontrollable now, you know, wait till I have.
And what's
espresso.
And what's fun is that I think it's even more. I'll bring it even more. Another racist idea is, well, of course the Black Lives Matter, like there's no receipts or whatever, because Black people don't know how to do math. Black people don't have internets. They don't know where the DMV is.
They can't get IDs.
They can't get IDs. We're helping them.
It's so beyond patronizing the way they treat them. Yeah.
And I'm so happy that so many have broken out. But just as again, another side note, it's not just the Oscars that probably, it's not just the Hollywood elites go, yeah, put Will Smith, blah, blah, blah. It's also the algorithm bots. Did you notice right away, all of the, anything hashtag Oscars got boom, boom, boom. I know some whites who follow me won't know this, but there's a thing called Black Twitter. And and it's a hashtag, and all these people, like, you know, just like we didn't know who the brother of Moesha was. We didn't know.
I did.
Okay, no, you know who Ray J was, whatever. But you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a Black culture shit, and there's you know, obviously we're generalizing, but that's the case. I would bet $1 million motherfucking dollars that I don't have, but I would bet a good goddamn amount of money that the algorithms helped hashtag Black Twitter find a bunch of Will Smith stuff and found zero about Biden taking money away from historically Black colleges.
Oh, yes. No, I know. Like, as a distraction. I know.
Yeah.
I know. And they'll never know. And it's it's just such an injustice. It's so frustrating when it's like these people don't know they're being duped. You're being so played. You're so being played. And if you say that to someone, you know, the wording is also really difficult. So like I tried to explain to a family member who is, you know, a Biden voter. It's my aunt. She's older. She, you know, she's set in her ways. She doesn't follow shit. She doesn't know anything that's going on. She doesn't have a Twitter account. She doesn't know all this woke shit and all that kind of stuff. She's like a regular Democrat.
Yeah.
But I tried to kind of explain the idea of propaganda and, you know, being like awoken, kind of like I was using words that like weirded her out that took away from my argument. So I'm like, figuring out a way to present like you're being played without saying you're being played is really difficult to find other words other than, you know, because it's propaganda, you're being played, you know, like it's all a distraction. It makes you sound like a conspiracy theorist, or it makes you sound like an extremist. And I'm like, I'm not. I'm literally just trying to open your eyes up to what the fuck is actually going on. But those words shut her down. And then she has no, you know, tolerance to hear what I'm going to say. So then you just kind of give up, and you don't want to lose family members. So.
Right. And there's, I mean, you know, that's why I always say about nigger thing and all kinds of other things. Code switching is actually a good thing. So I wouldn't say cunt around my grandma. You know what I mean? Like, because not because I disagree with saying the word cunt, but because it's not in the right sphere. Right.
It's not going to read well.
It's not going to read well. Right. And I mean, whatever. I don't say nigga around people, black people I don't fucking know, because I don't know if they're an oversensitive bitch.
Right.
Okay. That's the goddamn reality. Right. But here's the other thing. I will add some more hope to that to close it all out. Because again, we're going self-care up on this bitch. We're going fucking level up, vibrate higher ass, motherfucking own chickens, fucking rose quartz, white sage up in this bitch. More black people voted for Trump in a higher percentage voted for Trump in 2020 than did in 2016. And that's by their own stolen numbers. Okay. That's by their own fucking definition.
I know.
It's been 2 years, almost 2 years since the election. Do you really think that more black people have stayed asleep, especially when they ramped up mandates? Again, the problem isn't even really waking people up. The problem is getting the awakened people to speak the fuck up.
Right.
The Los Angelites, white liberal, especially the Soroses and the whatever, they like languishing and promoting the idea that we awake people are the minority. We are not. We are not. There's really only a couple million white liberals that we have to fight in order to change the world. That's really it. It's a couple million fucking douchebags in Brooklyn, Upper West Side, Beverly Hills, and Berkeley. That's it. That's really it.
Yeah.
As long as we can either siphon their worlds out of ours and get our own community started, or hopefully wake some of them up, then we're good. We're good.
Yeah. Yeah. You're very hopeful. I like that. I'm a little bit more of a cynic. I see them as these zombies that just you can't get through. Like, you could stab them in the heart with a dagger and they're still coming at you with white supremacy. You know, I'm like, so.
Well, propaganda, I had this chick, Propaganda Fluent, on my show, and she said that the two main ways is either trauma or repetition to get people to change their mind. Trauma like Will Smith, trauma like January, trauma like, or repetition. You're white, you're evil. You're white, you're evil. You're white, you're evil. Well, there's repetition on the other side too. You can take care of yourself, be good. You know, black people are not a monolith. Repetition up in this motherfucker, right? So as long as I continue, and I can see that, I mean, it's stupid or whatever, but I can see it in my, Instagram followers. I can see it in I can't see it in my engagement because YouTube is choking this channel to death. But, as much as my follower counts, my watch go down. But anyway, suffice it to say, I know that we're making a difference, and so just more people need to speak up.
Yeah, but the last thing, because you said YouTube killing your channel. That's the zombie that, you can't kill. It's like he comes in, he's the Tyrannosaurus Rex. We're all these little birdies, and they just shut your shit down. And that's how it's hard to spread the truth when you've got these evil giants that won't let the truth through and call it, misinformation.
Right.
It makes the job a lot harder. So obviously,
that's why I'm writing that article, that letter to people, maybe not Scott Thompson, but like the Bob Odenkirks, the whatever, because back in the day the gatekeepers were shitty. It wasn't political gatekeeping. It was some slimy Harvey Weinstein with shades on and streak back hair, and you're not good enough. And that was hard. That was fucking hard. But now that the floodgates have opened up, and anybody with an Instagram and a video and StreamYard can have people see their stuff. Now the gatekeepers don't have names. At least the douchebag in the 80s and 90s had fucking names.
Right.
Now they're white interns with a fucking dairy allergy, and they're tucking their dick because they're a Z. This is what I'm saying. They're nameless, and it's the bots that they incorporate. So help us, please. Fucking help us.
I know. God help us.
Well, he is. So thank you so much, Kristen, for joining me. This has been a fucking phenomenal conversation. Where can people find you?
So hit me up on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active. Chris Carn, Kriscarn. And again, just promoting my business. If you guys need help with your online banter or your profiles, I make over dudes' dating profiles. I make them witty and clever. So I use my comedy skills to get guys, the girls, because girls, what they say is they want a funny guy. That's always the number one. Number two, guy maybe with money, and then, number two, guy with a sense of humor. So I make over dating profiles so they're funny and clever and intriguing, and help with their banter. So they can all find that on Kristen, Kristen, and chill.com.
Awesome. I'll before I end, I got a message on Hinge yesterday from this chick. Let me show you, or let me read it out, just because it's pertinent. She said, no, not that one. Oh, did she?
Did she delete you?
I think she blocked me. But and not because I was mean or anything, but she said, I was really loving your profile until I saw this. And she's highlighting that I said I'm unvaccinated, but I respect your decision either way. Won't you change your mind? I was like, no, but I love that. It was like, we're already
change your mind for someone you don't know.
Right. For a fucking, by the way, for a 6. Okay. For a goddamn 6.
Yeah.
You need to get some fucking humility, girls. Anyway.
Right.
Thank you so much, Kristen. Everybody, wherever you're listening, subscribe, share, rate, review, blah, blah, blah. I love you all very much, and we'll see you next time. I'll go ahead and end the recording.